How's everybody doing? Good afternoon. So my name is Michael Wallant. I'm a general manager in the Windows Client Platform and Documents team in the Windows group at Microsoft. So we have kind of have a treat for you today. This will be a personal record. I think we're going to have 7 different speakers today, showing a lot of different demos, a lot of different spaces, and a lot of different opportunities, because this talk is really about opportunities with Windows Presentation Foundation. So we'll try to go through that. So, this morning I think we saw some great examples of really good, better, best user experience built inside the browser. People are used to the functional web experiences they've come to know and love. They've made a lot of people a lot of money, which is a good thing. But what we're seeing is that people really are demanding more. Richer experiences, more information, more differentiation. And really now what we're trying to do with WPF is to give you an opportunity to create the most differentiated, most unique, best user experiences with your web applications. And just some examples. So if we think about things in the application space, we've all seen things like Microsoft Photos, or MSN Photos, and then a whole set of Atlas websites using photos. We even saw some of those this morning. Dean demoed those. And today we're going to see Microsoft Max as well. We have the product unit manager for Microsoft Max who's going to come and give us a demo of that. From a content side, we've seen static websites that have images and text, but we can go beyond that, making experiences richer. We're going to show some interesting stuff today with WPF-E, or Windows Presentation Foundation Everywhere, that shows how you can take much of the information that you have about building WPF applications and actually put that onto every device, every platform, every browser. And there's actually a talk coming up tomorrow afternoon that goes into that in even greater detail. And we've seen what the richest possible experiences are. The North Face content application or the kiosk application is a great example of probably one of the best killer applications using WPF as a platform in the content space, and we'll go through that a little bit with you today. So what am I going to go through? So we're going to talk about building rich Windows applications and show some great examples of those rich Windows applications. We're going to then talk about the benefits you get from a developer and designer productivity aspect with WPF and with the tools that we're offering, and hopefully with the tools that folks in the industry will offer as well. And then we'll close with some rich interactive content, going through the experience there, how developers and designers can work better together, and go into WPF-E a little bit. And then we'll certainly close with questions. My goal today is to take about 45 or 50 minutes, probably closer to 50, 55 minutes, with all the demos and switches we have for today, and then open up the floor and answer as many of your questions as we can and make this a good dialogue. So think of some good questions. So when we think about building rich applications, we've seen great websites using both HTML and using Atlas and Ajax. And just as a kind of an inside piece of information, we started the WPF team, then the Avalon team, back in 2001, and it was the very same people who brought you dynamic HTML in the browser. I joined Microsoft in 1996, working on Trident, which was our first DHTML engine. Worked on that for 5 years through IE6 and was heavily involved in that. And then we said, you know what? This gets us rich web applications. There's no doubt about it. But if we want to have an integrated platform for user interface, for media, for documents, there's some real limitations in the way the browser works and the compatibility it has to have with the web. We think we need potentially a different runtime that is interoperable with the web, but not using the exact same technology. So we came to this place of building WPF from the goal of wanting to build a rich presentation platform, not just for the web and not just for Windows, but for them both, and to let you build applications that work seamlessly in both locations. And what was our goal? Well, we wanted to let you build differentiated experiences and differentiated applications. We've seen how by having a richer experience, you can have better brand affinity and better connection with your customers. And we can also do things in these web experiences that really unleash the power of the PC. We talk a lot about the GPU and the graphics capabilities of the system. And the fact is that if you want to use your CPU and use only software rendering in order to deliver the web experience, at some point you kind of fall off the cliff. My favorite little mini anecdote on this one is from back in about 1999 when we were doing IE. And I got a call from somebody on the DirectX team who said, hey, I've been using the latest build of the browser. and basically, you guys suck. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, it hasn't become hip yet to say that we're lousy. So, what are you talking about? And he said, well, I can run with DirectX, I can run a fully 3D, immersive, 60 frames a second virtual world, but yet when I scroll text in Internet Explorer, it tears. That's horrible. And that's because fundamentally, the browser and Windows applications before WPF were using 20-year-old, as of last year, graphics technology called GDI. And DirectX worked a totally different way. Well, what we've done is actually build out the entire Windows foundation now on top of DirectX that actually does terminal services and prints and is accessible and all that other kind of stuff. So we really are trying to help you unleash the power of the PC and do amazing stuff. And hopefully in the demonstrations that you see today, you'll see how these companies and some of our developers are really unleashing the latent power of the PC. As I said before, we believe in having applications that work both in the browser and outside of the browser. Fundamentally, users want an experience where you fire up the browser, you type in a website, you get a great experience. That's it. No clicking, no dialog boxes, no security warnings. It's just great, and we're going to deliver that. But if you want to have an even better user experience where there's more customer connection, more customer affinity, with one line of XML change in a manifest file, you can make that application run outside the browser as well. And we'll demonstrate both types of applications for you today. And I actually think we're going to magically transform from one type of application to another type of application if the demo gods are smiling upon us. And then the last thing is really all about improving productivity. Lots of times people ask us, they say, well, what can you do that I couldn't have done some other way? It's like, well, if you've hired a team of crack DirectX developers and 43 developers and spent 7 years doing it, I'm sure you could do it as well. But the Yahoo demo we showed this morning, which we saw a sneak peek of and which we'll see a little bit more of today, that was 5 developer weeks of effort to do the whole thing from start to finish. Right? So these are amazing user experiences that have minimal developer time. This morning you heard Andrew Sorotnik from Fluid talk about how the North Face kiosk application that we saw, and we saw just a fraction of it in the video, took only 30 developer days of effort from a developer who had never been a Windows developer before. That person was a designer. That type of productivity is key. And as well, we have to bring designers into the process. We have to make sure that developers and designers can work together seamlessly and stand on each other's shoulders and not on each other's toes so that the best user experience can get developed in the minimum amount of time. So the WPF capabilities, things to keep in mind as we go through this presentation. Kind of from the bottom, there's a bunch of base services that we have. And the base services are important because it means that your application just works. It's accessible. It works over terminal services. It prints. These are all important things in today's world. And then one of the things that we think is a real foundational element to WPF is XAML. It's our XML application modeling language is what we initially called it, and now we just call it XAML because the first one was just too long. But with XAML, it's the declarative way that your applications can be built that lets developers and designers work together and is really toolable. We had that notion in mind from the very beginning, ensuring that people could work together. They had a declarative way to do it, so it was friendly with the web, so you could actually search on some of this content that was on the internet, which we thought was an important characteristic. And then as well, tools could be easily used for it, where the tools that we've seen like Microsoft Expression Interactive Designer, for everything that you do in the GUI, it doesn't code generate. It just generates markup. And that's such a significant thing when it comes to building a tool that's robust and reliable. And if you have somebody mark up your code a little bit, when they open it back up in the tool, it actually works the way you intended. So it's really critical. Media integration layer, it's the layer on top. Media integration layer is where the magic comes together, where we understand how the graphics card actually works, where we do things like 2D, 3D, imaging. And I encourage those of you who actually do imaging and do imaging codec works to talk to us about that. We built an animation system that understands how to do animation based on time and not just based on frames. And then on top of that, user interface services for controls, for layout, for data binding. All of these things built together in an integrated way, where you don't need to decide, oh, this is my control, and this is my document, and this is my 2D, and this is my video, but rather how it all works. Now, tomorrow, you're going to see a demo that is amazing. We haven't showed it yet, but when I tell you about integrated content services, UI, documents, media, 3D, audio, when you see this app tomorrow, you're going to say, aha, I know what he was talking about. Amazing, amazing stuff. And then on top of it, we believe in documents. Documents in two ways. One is fixed format documents, where they look exactly the way you intended them to look. And the other one is flow documents. We showed flow documents a little bit this morning. We'll show it a little bit more this afternoon. And with that, let me invite up our first guest for today, Hillel Cooperman, who's the product unit manager for Microsoft MIX, who will come and give us a demo of said product. Hillel, thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Michael. Hey, everybody. How you doing? I can hardly see you. They blind us a little bit. So just a little bit of background. I had the good fortune to be part of the team that that designed and conceived the new Vista UI, and had a sense about how to bring software to the public that kind of made people feel good and was useful and did things that people really wanted, but also did things that people loved. And I said, hey, you know, this Vista thing is moving along to its conclusion, and maybe it's time to make a new kind of application, kind of a next generation application. Michael said, hey, I got a platform for you. And I said, well, what is it? And he explained it was this vision. Said, well, okay, but you know, it's got to be able to do really amazing UI, but in a really short amount of time. You know, want to keep it a small team. He said, no problem. I said, now I know you did all that great HTML stuff, but weren't you the blink tag or the marquee tag? Which one were we?
Marquee.
Marquee. Sorry. So I said, because we're going to do some animation, and blink and marquee are not my idea of the kind of animation we want to do. So he said, trust me. And so in many ways, Max was the canary in the coal mine. And I said to Michael, I said, you know, if we do this, you're going to hate us because we're going to complain often, early and often, about all the problems in the platform until you guys get it right. But lucky for you guys, we've done quite a bit of complaining, and our complaints have gotten less and less to the point where we are unbelievably excited about building our application on top of WPF. Oh, and one other thing we said to Michael is, by the way, we're not going to build a demo. We're going to build an app, and we're going to ship it. So in fact, what I'm showing you today, you can go download today at www.microsoft.com/max, M-A-X. Some people say that's an unfortunate name for a Microsoft product because they think it's for the Mac. But I think we'll navigate that confusion, and you'll probably find the URL. So basically, it's kind of a funny application. Our basic idea was to do this kind of next generation user experience, and we picked a very narrow scenario to start with. Basically, the first thing we want to let you do was say, hey, what if you could make lists of photos, organize them any way you want, put them in some cool views, some very cool views, hopefully Michael's platform should give us that, and then share them over the internet in a peer-to-peer fashion with others. So in fact, and you'll notice, by the way, even this page right here that you're looking at seems a little kind of funny. Right there on the right is actually our blog, the team's blog that gets updated live inside the application. So already see it's kind of a next generation application in terms of how open we're trying to be with involving customers in the process. So, and again, all of this is WPF. So as I go through here, I'll try and show you what we did in each situation. So from a user perspective, what we do here is we're actually browsing the file system and getting the last six, in this case, folders full of photos that the person has put on their hard drive. We also have the largest plus sign ever put in a piece of software. That's for all you MASH fans, so you can land a helicopter on it. MASH? Just no one remember? That's an old show. Those of us, Alan Alda, not just on West Wing. All right. So in any case, so now we could just pick a folder in here, but instead we'll dive in. And what's interesting about this is each of these views, sorry about that, move a little fast. Each of these views, there's something really kind of cool going on here. WPF gives us this very neat functionality that lets us nest our views. So essentially, we've written code that shows thumbnails of the photos in a folder on the file system. But you'll notice, in fact, that of the 7 folders that I'm showing you here, each of them have a different number of items in them. And you can tell because as I expand the size of the thumbnails, the guy in the middle there, Fearless Leader, only has 4 items. It's only ever going to show 4. And so that one will actually make the photos bigger. But the other ones will show more thumbnails. And the cool thing is, this is actually the same piece of code 8 times, nested. So it is basically live, rendering the thumbnails 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you say, but hello, you said 8. The whole thing is also rendering the thumbnails of the folders. So it's 7 thumbnail views nested in one thumbnail view, all dynamic and all resizable in kind of a cool way. So in fact, let's dive in. Again, on every view that we have, we get these neat transitions and also our ability to resize on the fly and get these real nice animations. In fact, let's just add all these. Just to show you that we're not just doing folders, we can also go and grab some pictures from another folder and make our list. Now, a neat thing, now I don't know how many of you guys are UI geeks, but I think more and more people have to kind of have some empathy for that to really make great products that stand out. This page is funny to me because in the past, if we were just using some framework, we get a bunch of widgets and we'd be able to use them any way we want and that would be fine. But this is really more than that. What we really get to do here is reuse the same controls and meta controls that we've created in new ways. So in this mode, all you're doing is choosing pictures. And in fact, we get to use that same thumbnail view, but I click here and I get the little plus sign. I click again and the minus sign. The whole screen is one click to just add items to the list. And because there's only 2 states that any item can be in, we can limit ourselves to 1 click and the whole thing works. And I could also, by the way, if I want, drag and drop and get the translucency and the little snazzy animation when it drops in there. Come on, there you go. But the point is, we get to reuse all this stuff everywhere we go. All right, so we've made our list of photos, and that's nice. And we'll call this Mix album. But we can also do some other views. For example, if I wanted to put this in an album view. So now, and again, we're not pickling the information here. WPF gives us the ability to do very rich views and then to leave all the data in its own distinct state, but then put metadata around it so that we get to tag where it goes in the views and how it should be arranged and how it should look. That doesn't look good there. Let's maybe there. And then we can take this whole slide, move it over here. And again, we can resize these guys any way we want. You get the idea. And we can even hit play and get an idea of what this is going to look like on the other end when we share it. Now, I don't have time to actually do sharing, but I do want to show you 2 quick more views before I'm done. The first is, we said, well, this is all well and good. We've done a basic thumbnail view. We've shown you this sort of album-like layout that lets you lay things out any way you want. We even let you, check this out. Here, wait a minute. Let's say I want to annotate this, show you where the treasure is buried. There we go. It's right there. So, and notice we get this great ability to show you the margins, which parts of the photo are not going to show up in the view. Again, making this kind of UI is super easy with us. We just get a ton of productivity out of the platform. But there's one other view we got, because we didn't want to just do 2D. We want to take advantage of some of Avalon's 3D functionality. And so we have this mantle view functionality here. And I can rearrange in here just like you'd expect. And then I hit play, and then I'm able to do this. And again, this is, I didn't need 43 DirectX developers or even any knowledge of DirectX to do this. But I get a really positive experience. One last thing, because we felt that, great, we've done a good job here with photos, hopefully, or at least a good starting job, and the platform was really enabled to do some sexy stuff. We said, well, you know what? It would be nice if we did something with text as well. And so what we thought is we would actually build more than just a newsreader for our blog, but a newsreader right into Macs. And so in fact, what you're looking at, and this is very early version of it, but we did just ship this basic version, although it is very hard for me to find news feeds that have safe for conference content. We're going to skip all videotape articles. So what we've done is we've hardwired this to start to the MSN Newsbot RSS feeds, just to give you a sense. And what we're doing is we get this excellent dynamic layout, which, and by the way, this is kind of a hard problem, because you're getting all these different chunks of text that are different lengths. And to lay them out in a sort of newspaper-like view and make them look decent is really hard. So we did the algorithms there, but what WPF gave us was the ability to make them look really like as close to a print newspaper as you're going to get. As much as I love the browser, right now, unless you're using WPF, you're not going to get this kind of functionality with subpixel clear type readability. This is the most readable RSS reader you're going to find in the world right now, thanks to WPF. So that's what we have right now. One other thing I want to mention to you is we're shipping every 3 months. We do this for a variety of reasons. One reason, again, is to make sure that we're keeping these guys honest and make sure they have the best platform possible for all of you. Another reason is because we think that look, it depends. If you have enterprise customers, you're probably looking at longer cycles. But especially in the consumer space, people need to ship very often. And you need to have a platform that gives you the ability to turn things around very quickly, very productively. And so we're doing that not just because we need to for our product, but to prove that it can be done on top of this platform. So we're pretty happy about it.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Hilla. OK, so I'd like to ask Julia Miller to come up, who's going to give us a sneak peek of iBlocks, never before seen, especially for you. Julia, welcome. Thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you. Let's see. OK. So I'm going to actually let you in on our dirty little secret here, which is our iBlocks application. So that was our dancing man, and we're very proud of him introducing our product, which is iBlocks, a new form of personal self-expression targeted towards teens between the ages of 12 and 18. What we've tried to do is make it really simple and easy for people to be able to take advantage of this type of personalization in a way never before possible. And what we've done is we've actually brought together the ability to take photos, videos, music, text, and themes and backgrounds, put them into a 3D environment, and then be able to create an iBlock and share that very easily with others. One of the things that our overall goal was to create software that makes people smile. And when we saw WPF, we thought, wow, this really may be an opportunity for us to actually make that happen. And it did. And we're really excited, basically from concept to this actual product that you'll see a couple more examples in the few minutes that I have. We were able to get this product built within 8 months. We actually thought without this type of WPF available, it would have been closer to 1.5 years to actually get everything, because we not only have models, but we have games involved as well. And for any of you that come out of the game space, you realize that game development is a pretty lengthy process. But I'm going to show you another example of a model that I'm actually just going to create on the fly for you, so you see that it's live, which is a Sudoku game, which we will actually ask me if I want to save it. I'm going to say no. This is a Sudoku game. Are any of you in the audience familiar with Sudoku? It's played by over 100 million people around the world today. It's basically a puzzle game that people play, and it has numbers, and the reason that it's darked out here is so that you don't cheat. But again, our goal is to allow personalization of anything that somebody wants to do to be able to share with their friends. And so in this case, I'm going to just give you an example of how I can easily take my photos and add them in to my Sudoku game to totally personalize it. So it takes things that are interesting to me, and I can actually just drag and drop other images. I can also customize, because I would prefer to have my number be colored rather than the way that it is with a little bit of influence. And again, you can see the ability, it's very simple to be able to just totally customize the game. Have my music that I want, so I'm going to add a different song, add a different background really quickly here. And now, rather than having a Sudoku game just like everybody else, I actually have the ability to play my own customized game. And in our case, what we're doing is we're creating these models and frameworks for people to be able to totally personalize and share and play games as well as models and forms to share with each other. What we found with WPF is that we were able to build this game in less than 2 months, rather than what we would have figured would have taken us closer to 4 months. And so we're really pleased with the ability that this has provided to us in terms of the overall performance. The other thing that it allowed us to do was actually create the visual elements and the application separately. So then we were able to merge those two pieces together, which really cut our development time in half. And so from a standpoint where we have investors that are looking for a return from us as quickly as possible, it's really important for us to be able to speed up that development time. Plus, in our model, and I think Hillel mentioned earlier, we see the consumers needing to have applications kind of coming out and new mods, new games available to them. And so in terms of our release schedule, we're looking at making things available on a monthly basis to consumers to keep them updated. One of the other things that I'd like to just make available to you is the fact that we've actually integrated the application into the web, and I think that's really important going forward. So we have a client application that also works nicely with the web and seamlessly within the web. And one of the things that WPF allowed us to do was to make that integration very easily in terms of our application. Our shop actually goes out to the web, and it is up as of today because we brought it up so that we would actually be able to see. Right now, the user is actually in a client application that was very seamless out to the web. We think this type of thinking, this type of approach where a customer doesn't have to understand the difference between an application that's running on a client versus something that's happening on the web is going to be the future. WPF certainly allowed us to be able to do that. And we really think this is just the beginning for us. And we're really excited about what the development platform has done, so we're thankful for that. I think our development team, Rolf and Mark are out in the audience. Doug Hagen is back in San Francisco, have just done an outstanding job taking this idea of personalization and self-expression, bringing it to a whole new level, and really delivering a really great experience for the consumer. So I want to thank everybody, and if you have questions about this in our development process, we're actually at the Vista Showcase area this week, and I'm sure Rolf and Mark will be available to answer some questions for you. And we just hope you enjoy and sign up for our iBlocks beta and become one of our customers. Thank you.
Looks great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, one more demo for this section. So Arik Cohen's going to come up and give us a demo of a little bit more in-depth demo of My Yahoo that we showed this morning in the keynote. So Arik, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Michael. So you got a sneak peek from Michael, actually, this morning on the My Yahoo experience that we worked together with folks on the Yahoo development team to pull things together. We tried to not keep you guys too late this morning. I know everybody was getting a little bit hungry. So we decided to move a few of the samples a little bit later here. The most interesting thing when you're looking at kind of this portal experience, being able to have a really personalized, customized experience is just the vast amounts of data that is available to you via Yahoo. The biggest challenge you have is how do you make that data available? How do you let people interact with it in an effective way? And how do you make it always visible to people? So the most important thing about this application is it's always above the fold. So no matter what resolution you're running at, no matter what set of content you have, layout works appropriately, everything stays above the fold so that you get a really rich experience, but you also have the ability to access all of the content. Other ways that the platform really allows Yahoo to showcase that type of availability and to get a richer and richer experience as people drill into the data that's most interesting to them is, for example, let me take this movies one, give it focus, and you'll notice that as I start increasing the size, you get more and more data relaying itself out, all data binding itself live to the same APIs and the same XML data that is available via the My Yahoo services today. The other interesting thing about this application is, and it's running live off of the actual data from Yahoo, it's all, not a single line of server-side code was changed as far as how it's presenting the data. So you're getting a really rich experience. In fact, as I drag out even further, if I actually grab it in the right spot, you get kind of the full ability to watch the previews and trailers and get all the information about the movie in there. So having a really rich experience across all of that. The other thing that we kind of touched on this morning is, hey, how can I create my own page? So I've got my buddies page here. I can go add a couple modules into it. Let me go into my buddy network and add Jane's. And let's add another one here, maybe Michelle's. The content, one of the things that you'll notice here is really rich animations moving and showing the user what happened. One of the challenges that you have with web applications today, and some of it gets a little bit easier with Ajax-style applications, is that when you click, you don't know what happened. Biggest challenge the user has is they clicked on something, and I'm going to go into the Yahoo services content here and bring up the sports news, and they didn't know that their interaction actually caused something to happen. Here you're able to give really rich, immediate feedback to the user that when they select something, it immediately caused a reaction. So I can bring up here that Paul Tagliabue, the NFL commissioner, who was kind enough to help my Cowboys win 3 Super Bowls, the most of any team during his tenure. Sorry, I had to get that in there before we signed Terrell Owens. But sorry, still a little bitter. I want to find out more information about him. One of the interesting challenges that Yahoo looks at is how do they integrate the great content within the feeds and within the stories and content that they have available with the rest of the web content. And when you want to move back and forth between that content, how do you make a seamless experience there? So here I'm going to pick up Paul Tagliabue. I'm going to drag him into the search bar here. And it's automatically, since I was looking at a news story, going to do a search for all the news stories around Paul Tagliabue. I can also, he's a personal hero of mine. Maybe we have a picture of him handing my team a trophy. No, that's not one of the first ones that come up. But you can also do kind of the image search and have a really rich experience bringing that content back. The interesting thing here is, once again, Yahoo had to change no content, the way that content was being presented via their standard XML APIs to provide that content back. Now, you have a really rich experience here, and one of the most interesting things when you look at that is how do you provide additional customization? And how do you allow people to extend the My Yahoo space? And how do you let people create new widgets and new modules for their application? Here, in fact, we can go back to the initial page, and I'll come back a little bit in a little bit and show you how we created some of these and how we use some of the tools for that. As Michael mentioned a little bit earlier, this entire application went from concept to working against live Yahoo data, pulling in all that content, having a really rich, personalized experience in 5 weeks of developer time. But the challenge with that level of productivity, Michael, is that marketing people want more features. And I know that none of you in the audience, if there's the marketing folks in the audience, I apologize. It's not, the features are great ideas. So to give an example of a type of feature that was requested, you'll notice that here when we switch between the pages, you get a live preview. Not just that on hover it shows the appropriate one, but even inside kind of this list box, it shows you live the way that you laid out the content. So that was requested by the marketing folks at Yahoo, and the developer was able to do it. In about the amount of time it took me to do this demo, he did it in 6 minutes. So the ability to take an application and be able to rev it quickly and really get the rich productivity, we're excited about it, and I know that Yahoo's excited about the type of rich experiences that they can provide their customers.
Thanks a lot, Arik.
Thanks.
And we'll have Arik back up in a few minutes to show us the magic of transforming an application from in-browser to out-of-browser. So we've heard a lot about developer productivity, and there's really a few points we want to make here on that. Creating an integrated platform for UI documents and media means that when you look at an application like MyYahoo or like iBlocks or like Max, there aren't islands of technology inside of it that you need to somehow correlate together with radically different programming models or even display technology. It's all built on top of the same foundation, which means that they interoperate seamlessly to create these really compelling user experiences. Having declarative programming, as I mentioned before with XAML, helps developers and designers work better together and also gives us great tool support. And making sure that designers are really involved in the application development process. That's not just about XAML, though. That's about having a robust styling and templating model behind it. I grew up in the styling realm with CSS. CSS is great. CSS suffers from a couple flaws that we tried to resolve with WPF. One is that all properties are not uniformly CSS-able, right? How many times have you struggled with, oh, is it a font tag or is it the font family? Is it the font size? Or how come when I go to the browser and I select larger or smaller, it doesn't really work right? It's kind of hard. So all of the properties in WPF are completely stylable and can be done in style sheets. And we have this notion of what we call composite properties, which basically means that let's take, for example, the background of a button. Buttons in HTML, it's great. They can be composite. You can host things inside of them, which works really well. But as soon as you put an image inside of a button, you've impacted the programming model. Because now when I click on that button, sometimes I click on the button, sometimes I click on the image, sometimes I click on the text. You don't really know. But with WPF, I can use any set of elements essentially as a visual brush that I paint on top of anything else. We saw the visual brush to great effect in Hillel's demo, where he had the pictures. He had a background frame. He painted the picture inside of it. That was actually done in 3D space. And even the reflection on the bottom was actually the use of that visual brush with a transparent blur on the bottom or a transparent filter on the bottom to actually make it look like a reflection. So this is all very, very interesting stuff. So the platform is really developer-friendly. And we've worked really closely internally to build tools for designers. The Microsoft Expression family is all about that. We've tried to make that interoperate very, very well with Visual Studio, our premier developer product line. But in addition, we've been working really hard with industry to make sure that the XAML format is open for others to work with and create tools for. And today you can get great early tool support from both Mobiform and Electric Rain. Mobiform in the UI space and Electric Rain actually building a product called XAM3D, which is a 3D exporter. So the key things that tie this together, imagine the designer and the developer working on two sides of the house. The developer is used to, oh, it's a list box, it's a control, and I've got, I use C++ or C++ or C# or VB. And the designer says, no, I work in pictures, I have animation, I use 3D Studio Max, and that's the way things work. And how do those people cooperate and work together? Well, we think, again, the thing that really ties that all together is XAML. And we want to have appropriate tools for the appropriate people. In the example that Hillel showed with Microsoft Max, remember the pane off to the left that had the list of images, that had that nice animation effect, that kind of looked right, that had images? That was a list box. That was a styled list box. That's all it was. It's that type of styling that you can apply to your experience in your application that really lets designers go wild and developers write the real code behind it and doesn't let them conflict. So with that, let me ask Arik to come back up, and we're going to quickly go through actually building a portion of the MyYahoo site.
Thank you once again, Michael. And I realized that I actually hadn't closed off the other app that I was running. So let me come in here. This is the Expression Interactive Designer. How many people have went to the Expression overview session that was just previously to this? Okay, so you'll probably have seen some of what I'm going to show here. I wanted to show, first of all, one of the most interesting things about Expression from a WPF perspective is they fall into the hair club of men. They're not just a member, they're the president. The entire application here is a WPF application. So in order to build the WPF application and have the really rich experience within it, they've built on top of WPF in order to do that. Now, here you're taking a look at the calendar widget. Here I'm running it. Let me actually test the project out. We're building it, and we'll bring it up. Take a quick second here. And we've got the appropriate resize capabilities and all of that. And here we're running it as in a test application here that's running as a full trust application. It's running as a client application. We wanted to show a little bit about how simple it is to switch an application from running as a client-based application to one that's running inside the web. So let me do everything that we need to do to make that happen. Let's change the deployment settings from an installed application with full trust to a web browser application with partial trust. And test the project. Changes one line in the XML file. If we're running it, it's building right now. And now the application comes up inside the browser. Pretty darn easy. Wanted to show a little bit and give a little bit of the idea of kind of the styling technology that Michael was talking about. Here you'll notice that in each one of these there is, let me actually scale this down just a little bit so that I can get it to full size. We can go, for example, drill in to this particular element. I can rotate it because I like the star to be a little bit off kilter. You can also see here that you've got a button. We can drill into here. I can go edit the template that's associated with this. Now I've got the rectangle. I can go bring up the appearance, change it to, maybe I want to have a different hue. And we're changing the style of this one particular button, but that's a shared style. All the buttons have the same exact content. So we can go in, edit in one place that content. We can do the same thing for text, be able to drill in to kind of the text here, change, for example, the appearance and make this one also a little bit different in color. And you've got the ability to override either at the individual layer or across all the elements that are using the same style. And a designer experience that is only modifying the XAML code. So it's all just a standard markup-based language. So for people that are familiar and used to programming to HTML and hand editing HTML, there's no magic going on behind the scenes. The entire tool is just writing out to the same XAML format. If you want to get a better insight into kind of the designer's view of WPF and how you can interact with that XAML and have the really rich experience there, Robbie Ingebrigtsen is doing a talk tomorrow at 11 about that. And actually today at 4:30, Phil Fortes is going to be drilling into kind of a little bit more of the developer overview and showing how the two can work together in order to create really rich, really compelling applications.
Thanks, Arik. Thank you. All right. So we've seen so far how you can build really interesting application experiences that usually have some degree of business logic, have some degree of forms, may do media integration, but it's a means to an end in an application experience. But we've all seen a different type of content both on the web and outside of the web that's really about interactive media and interactive content. Now, I hope we will show by the time we're done today how WPF is a great platform for doing that. And in fact, we're going to show you a demo for that in just a second. Whether it's video, whether it's audio, whether it's animation, text, be it flow or fixed, we believe we've built a platform that really helps you deliver kind of everything you've always dreamed of when it comes to content. So let me kind of show you and actually bring Arik back up. He's going to get a lot of exercise, probably bad timing on our part. We want to show you what we think is probably the best example of a content experience built on top of WPF, and that was done by the Fluid team, and that's North Face.
Thanks. Yeah, I am running up and down the stairs. I should have just stood in the back here. So let me swap over here, and I'm actually, this Fluid experience that they built for North Face is actually a kiosk-based experience that they want to make available in all North Face stores. Now, the important thing about a kiosk-based experience is you pretty much don't want to use a keyboard and mouse, right? So you want to have a much simpler way of interacting with it. So let me jump on in. And I'm using the touch panel here. You've got a really rich experience showing kind of the great assets and the great ways that North Face differentiates itself. One of the best ways that North Face differentiates itself from a variety of the other extreme kind of sports and extreme adventuring type retailers is they sponsor these expeditions that really give users and a real world example of if you were, for example, wanting to go backcountry, what is the types of products that you would want to use there. We can, in fact, go bring up the jackets that's being used in this particular one. We can go in and see the details. You'll notice that we're still showing the live video on 3D in the background. Bring up the product details. Now, one of the things that is always interesting to me and is how does the product really look? So maybe I can want to rotate around, see how does it look from the back. I can take a look at what are the different technologies and that are available to it. I can also compare it to a variety of similar products. And in fact, here I can also take a look, see how all of them interact together. So the initial prototype of this application took, as mentioned by Andrew from Fluid this morning, took 6 weeks by a developer that had no experience with WPF. In the 2 weeks following that, he went and added the touchscreen capabilities, integration actually with barcode scanning so that when you walk into the store and you can take the product, go get more details on it, and the full product comparison sites in 2 more weeks. So they have a really rich experience. So we can take a look kind of here at the Redpoint jacket. You'll notice that they even have really rich animations that showcase the types of technologies that are being used here, while at the same time showing the expeditions that are still being used. This, when we look at it, is kind of a revolutionary type of experience that can be built in 2 months by someone who's never used the platform before. From that perspective, we think that the types of experiences that people will build will only get greater as we move forward.
Great. Thanks a lot, Arik. And I won't make it come up again, I promise. Okay. So we've gotten a lot of great feedback on WPF as a platform for doing interactive content. And last year at the PDC, we announced WPFE, or Windows Presentation Foundation Everywhere, which is the subset of WPFE that we're going to take to every browser and to every platform, and it's really focused on the interactive content scenario. We want to make sure that it has awesome integration with the web, which means that it doesn't just work on different browsers and on different platforms, but it uses both JavaScript and has great markup integration. And tomorrow, Joe Stegman has a talk in the afternoon that actually would go in detail through all of that. We see XAML as our enabling technology for that because it is exactly a compatible subset of XAML using the same tools, the same process that you have learned or may learn already, but you can use this in this smaller runtime and have it work everywhere. We will make this available soon. We will have a CTP in the 3rd quarter of this year, which we're very excited about. And we plan to RTM it for the web for at least Windows and Macintosh in the first half of 2007. And we'll have releases for device platforms in the second half of 2007. And the device platform story isn't just a player. It actually is a full platform package that can be used in whatever device you would like. So we think that's pretty powerful. So with that, well, actually, let me talk about this. So WPFE architecture. So let me talk about this a little bit. So, we've obviously at the bottom written a platform abstraction layer so that therefore we can port it to a number of different platforms very quickly. We have a UI and rendering core which understands 2D animation, text, and some UI controls. We then put an API on top of it that's appropriate for the platform. So you can program to it to COM or in Win32 on Windows, or using native Apple or even potentially other platform APIs in the future. We then have a layer on top that acts as a plugin for both Internet Explorer and other browsers using the Netscape plugin model. And we then, in some cases, based on the application or the operating system, give or build specific operating system hosting content such that it can be built and not just used as a player, but as a toolkit in your own application. We are able to program against it using JavaScript from the markup on the outside. So I have my HTML markup, I have my XAML markup inline in the page, and I write JavaScript against that XAML markup. Or I have more of the player plugin sort of model where I have the object tag, it points to a package, and that package inside of it has both the markup and potentially even compiled .NET IL code. And we support both a loose packaging model where you can have the XAML, the HTML, and all the content inside put out across your web farm or web server, or you can package it together in an easy-to-use format that's actually using the same overall packaging convention as our XPS system, the open packaging conventions. And once again, this is all really tied together with XAML. So, what better way to actually go through and show this than actually to show it? So let me invite up Joe Stegman, who's the lead program manager on the WPFE project, to give you a sneak peek demo and kind of a teaser for his talk tomorrow.
Sure.
So welcome, Joe. Thanks a lot.
How's everybody doing? Think I'm on? Okay, let's find my box here. So what I'm going to show here is you saw Arik come up and he did a demonstration of North Face and he showed some assets on there. And I'm going to show how you can take some of those assets that he showed in the North Face kiosk app and use them in a web app. And I'm going to show those assets running in a web app on Windows as well as on another platform. So first I've got, here's a customer-facing, this is actually running on my local web server, but it's just North Face's, one of the pages on the North Face site. And what I want to do is I want to add some content here. And the first thing I'm going to add is this is the, I've got Interactive Designer up here. You may recognize this from Arik's demo, and it is the fabric animation here that I can go ahead and play it in Interactive Designer. I can scrub the timeline. So what I want to do is I want to take this animation, I want to go ahead and put it on my web page. And I want that to run, once it's on my web page, I want to be able to show that animation everywhere, on any browser, on any platform. So this animation here is saved in XAML. It's saved in a file called fabric.xaml off here on the right. And whoops, we don't have another repeat of, oh, I guess that was a previous session where someone had an IM while they were doing their demo. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and add this to this page. And I'm going to go ahead and go into design view of my page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in a control here. And this is a ASP.NET control. Now, what I'm going to show you doesn't require ASP.NET. We've just done some integration with ASP.NET to make it easier to be able to host WPFE within your web page. And again, as Michael talked about, all that means really is that this control is putting an object tag or an embed tag in your page based on which browser you're in. It makes it a little easier for me to do things such as hook it up to a XAML page. Now, what I'm going to hook it up to here is the XAML page that I just created, or that was created previously by a designer, which is Fabric. XAML. See if I spell it correctly. And I'm going to make it windowless. And what this does is it just makes it so that it's transparent to the background. And transparent. And that's it. And we'll go ahead and run it real quick. And just to show you how that looks, so come under this one here. And now what you see is, so I'm running on a web page. What I've done already that I didn't show you was that I have the WPFE plugin already loaded. If I didn't have it loaded, the object tag or the browser, when it sees the object tag, would go look for the plugin. It would download the plugin. In this case, the plugin is about 200K now. We expect that to grow a little bit over time, but that is completely self-contained. What that means is it doesn't have the plugin, or what's running this currently right now, running this XAML, does not have dependencies on WinFX or other technologies, which enables it to run everywhere. So I've hosted it here in this page, and what I want to do is I want to add one more up here, which is another graphic that Arik had used in the North Face sample, and I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go ahead, grab a control, place it over here, do the same trick, XAML, and this is the jacket rotation XAML that was in the previous demo. Make it transparent. And I'm going to hook up a little JavaScript integration. I'll explain this a little bit. And so I'll explain this in a minute, but what this is going to do now, I'll show you the code a little bit if you guys don't mind looking at a little bit of JavaScript code, is that when I put this in here, what this means is as soon as the control is loaded and initialized on the page, it's going to call back my JavaScript init control method function. And I'm going to resize it. Did I? Someone says I spelled it wrong. I'm not surprised, so that's about the right size. Let's try it again. INITCONTR, look at that. I would be debugging that for a while. Control, thank you, good eyes. Okay, let's see if it works now. Any other mistakes? Anybody else want to debug for me? No takers? Okay, so what I did is I just added the second component, so now I have two components running here. I've got this one, and I've got this one up here. Now I'm going to show you the XAML for this real quickly, the jacket one here. But you'll see now I have this nice 3D effect. I don't know if you guys can see, but I also have the fog effect playing in the background. We see the kind of the smoky fog billowing. And I'll show you a little bit of the XAML for that, and I can do the standard, change the colors while I'm doing the rotation. And one final thing, too, is that the WPFE, it supports the standard 2D and text and animations and a control hierarchy. It also supports video, so I've also got a video control hosted down here. So I'm now playing some video. I've got the video, I've got the animations up top, I've got another animation here, all going in separate islands on the same web page. And just to show that it works elsewhere, let's go ahead and take a look at this running. This is on Firefox. So in this case, it's a Netscape plugin running that will go ahead and host the WPFE control. And here you see the same effect here. Here's the same graphic running as well on Netscape. And I can do the same thing on, I think I got a Mac here somewhere. So I'll bring it up in Safari. And we had some screen issues here. So I had it up and running. If you don't believe me, I could refresh it, but just to save time, we could reload the page. And so here you can see the same thing running in Safari. It's the same control. Whoops, same animation. There, whoop. Okay, I'm not clicking anymore. But you see same animation running here. I have the other animation running below. I think, yes, here it's a hover. But anyway, so here it is, same technology, same basically XAML that's been downloaded and now running not only on a Mac, but running on Windows platform, running in Netscape, and running in IE. Now, one thing I want to touch on, and then I'll get out of here, is I just want to show you real quickly. I plugged it up to I basically took the control, and I pointed the control using the ASP.NET control here. I pointed to some XAML, and I just want to show you the XAML. Quickly, this XAML works in Interactive Designer. I also get a view of it in Visual Studio. But to create this effect with the rotating jacket was pretty straightforward. I have a few animations doing the fog animation in the background. And I have one other thing. The key piece here is that if you can read that line, I'm sorry I didn't make my font bigger. But basically, I have a brush, and the brush is actually drawing the jacket, kind of what I think Michael and Arik talked about before. And I have some integration here with the web page. And the way that I'm actually doing the rotation in this case is the callback I talked about before is actually setting something up for me that allows me to actually use JavaScript to actually do that rotation. So the slider you're seeing on this page, this slider right here is a DHTML slider sitting on top of our control. And what's happening is I'm getting events as I move the slider. And with those events, I'm calling back into our control just using JavaScript. So I've scripted it up. And it's now changing this brush. It's actually selecting different images to give you that 3D rotation. So one of the things that we did is we have this great model which allows you to program against our control really easily using native JavaScript if you want to. And that's what I've got to show. If you're interested in this, I'm doing a talk tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And I'll show a lot more about this and go into more details on the technology and the programming model. Thanks. Back to you.
Great. Thanks a lot, Joe. All right. So, lots of times people ask us about the opportunity here. And they say, well, you haven't shipped yet. Vista hasn't shipped yet. How many customers could there be? Well, we expect that within the first 18 to 24 months of shipping Vista, that Microsoft or that the industry overall will ship probably somewhere north of 400 million PCs. And we think based on our own historical trend information, that the vast majority of those will be running Windows Vista. So, sometime 2007, 2008, just for Vista, multiple hundreds of millions of PCs and customers that you can target. Now, if we think about today, the world of Windows XP, we think that based on IDC studies, that about 60% of all PCs connected to the internet today are running Windows XP. If you think about the total PC connected base is about 1 billion, maybe that's about, 600 million. And let's be conservative and say that half of those are running, good modern hardware that'll have a great time running WPF. So just for WPF, maybe, if we're lucky, sometime in 2007, you'll have, 500 million customers who you can target. We think that's a significant number. And then when you add on WPFE on top of that, we think that number becomes even more significant. So we are committed to the platform. We are committed to getting it deployed. And we believe the opportunity that you have to target customers with this platform will be large. More than anything, I hope the thing that you saw today is that you've seen a set of companies and customers, internal developers, having an imagination to build something different and being enabled to do that with this platform. This isn't about creating a button. This isn't about creating better form layout. This is about building a platform to let you unleash your imagination. I've talked to some people here already who've done amazing stuff. And I hope that this really taps and lets you get into a real competitive spirit, or I'm sorry, not competitive spirit, creative spirit, and just do amazing stuff for your customers and help with your business. And I heard something from someone today who said that they felt that the next 3 years was going to be an opportunity to recreate the vision of the internet, both with Ajax and Atlas and WPF. And new experiences where people are really revving content, and it's a new opportunity. So we hope really that what we're providing for you today, if you choose to use it, is a great opportunity for you to provide the best possible experience for your customer and for your business. So with that, let me invite both Hillel and Julia back up, and we will take questions for 10 or 15 minutes at least from the group.
I just had a quick question about degrading the user experience gracefully, because obviously not everybody's going to cut over immediately, as you suggested. So, and we don't want to write lots of different pieces of code to address everyone. So what are we going to do to make sure that everyone has a useful user experience?
Okay. So there's really, I think there's two separate issues there. One is, you saw, like, for example, in the Max demo, real good use of 3D. And while some people might on XP have WPF, they may not have the 3D capabilities in order to do hardware-accelerated 3D animation. So one of the things that's built into the system is what we call the tiering API, where you can kind of get the right, get the characteristics of the system so that you can style your application to deliver the best experience for the customer. That's kind of one area. But I think the second question you're asking is more about in the web experience, how you deliver the best kind of experience for your customer. Really two answers there. One is that clients with WinFX and WPF installed will respond with a MIME header change telling you, the server, hey, we understand this new MIME type, either XBAP or a full trust application. So you can detect on the server side. From an application model point of view, what we're advocating for is very similar to what you'd build out your application with Atlas. Build web services with business process on the back end. We know a lot of content websites that have XML store on the back end that use some sort of translation of that XML into content on the front end. And we're not saying rebuild your entire system. We're saying, look, you can target a different client front end simply by changing that style sheet, changing the styles, and responding with that and having it come back down to the client and have the client understand the same middle tier and back end processes. So clearly, what we're not saying is, oh, instead of HTML tags, use these XAML tags instead. In fact, we're saying the opposite. We're saying, hey, a button's a button, some text is some text. That's not the point. The point is, if you want to create a differentiated experience, this is the way to do it, and here's a way to do it in an incremental fashion. Yes?
Hi. I see some clear distinctions between this Windows-based solution and Flash, but I'm wondering what, in your mind, distinguishes Flash and its burgeoning kind of enterprise solution to what you have here? And probably just as important, how, do you see that you need to convince the end user audience and even developers to switch over to your solution?
Okay, so let me try to answer that. So a couple things there. There's really two different solutions that we talked about, the full WPF solution versus WPFE. With respect to WPF, rather than going kind of point by point against Flash, what we would say is we're trying to create an integrated platform offering that supports user interface, documents, and media in a complete end-to-end solution. Both that does documents, both fixed and flow, does 2D and 3D animation, and specifically, since it's really tailored to Windows, does a great job with hardware acceleration, delivering that next generation experience. And that's really backed by Microsoft tools, servers, and process to build real industrial strength applications. We think we've got a good offering. We hope customers and developers choose that based on what we're providing. And I would say from an integration point of view and just from a total end-to-end tools offering, I hope that we provide a good competitive offering in the marketplace. And that's not to say that we don't expect to have a space in the market for a very long time, probably indefinitely for multiple players in this space. We hope that ours is something that developers choose to use. With respect to end users, I don't think that end users in general say, oh, I want an X technology or a Y technology solution. They want the best solution. And what we're committed to is building a seamless solution so that when a user goes to a website, they have a great experience that you can deliver. And in the end, it's really the developers, the companies who decide the best way based on where the companies or where the customers are voting with their feet. And we just want to be great providers and great providers to the development and the designer community to help that happen.
Yeah, just a quick question about platforms. We want to target a couple of platforms you haven't mentioned yet. Mm-hmm. Media Center and Media Center Extender in particular, mm-hmm. and Xbox.
Okay. So for Media Center, and I think are we showing at this conference WPF applications in Media Center? Okay, tomorrow's keynote, you'll see WPF applications inside of Media Center. For Media Center Extender, the Remoting Story 2 Extender for 2006 for WPF applications is not all the way there. We plan to update that hopefully in the 07 or 08 timeframe with full support for full remoting for that. With respect to Xbox, early conversations going on there for the pure Xbox platform. We're looking at that. We know they have their XNA platform where they're using some CF technology there. And hopefully we'll get good integration on that in the future. That's another area for us to work. Yes.
Hi, a platform question as well. For WPFE, will you make the plugin available for the Firefox team to put that into their installer? And the second one is, do you plan to have one for Linux?
Okay, two questions there. One is, would we make it available for the Firefox team? Interestingly, we were just talking to those guys last week. If they would like to ship WPFE in their Firefox distro, we're happy to give it to them. And it'll even be free. Second question is for Linux. Look, we're going to build a Linux version of WPFE. There's no question about it. You can clap if you want. Kevin, are you clapping? Kevin's the overall group manager for it, so I hope he's clapping. Yes, we're going to do that. Hey, just realistically, just being open about it, there's challenges for Microsoft to develop Linux applications. So we will get it done the right way. Maybe somebody else will do it, but there'll be one. And hopefully there'll be one next year. But we're building it in a way so it can easily be ported, and hopefully that'll be a super easy thing to do. But like I said, we want to have it be everywhere. We're committed, just as our commitment, hopefully I'm not going to go out too far on a limb, we're not going to ship a version of this unless it runs on Mac and on at least Windows 2000, Windows XP, and Windows Vista, and runs in Firefox, Safari, and IE. That's like the min bar to be credible. We're just not going to ship unless we have that. With respect to devices, it turns out the devices are on a little bit of different schedule, so it takes a little bit longer. But we'll make the toolkit available, and people can use it and port it and do what they want with it. Other questions? All right. Great. Well, thank you very much. Do you have a question there, sir? Okay. One more.
Sorry, I just thought of this one. How does WPFE in particular work with all of the accessibility stuff? I'm thinking like users with disabilities and all that kind of stuff.
Great question. So in our team, we're responsible not just for WPF and WPFE and XPS and printing, but corporate accessibility actually is in our group as well. So we will make sure that on Windows it supports both UI automation and the MSAA framework, as well as platform-specific accessibility frameworks. Accessibility isn't just the right thing to do. It's something you should do, and it's the right thing for customers. We're big believers in that, and we're going to make sure that our platforms support it natively out of the box and are industry leading in that area. Are there any other questions before we close? Great. Well, thank you very much. Oh, one more question. All right.
Hey, this is sort of a wacky question, and I do work with Adobe. But if you're thinking of making a plugin for multiple platforms to provide a richer experience in web browsers, why not use Flash? It's already out there.
Well, Adobe acquired Macromedia, believed in Flash. More power to them. We think that the format and the platform that we've built has some advantages related to the markup format, related to how we let developers and designers work together, and how it scales. We encourage Macromedia and even have worked with Adobe and Macromedia in the past to have them build portions on top of what we're doing. We're happy to do that because we're building an open platform for people to build their stuff on top of. We've gone a different direction. We're big believers in our format. We're going to back it. And we'd encourage other people to use it as well. Other questions? All right. Well, great. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the show. Oh, one more question.
Sorry. You just mentioned an open format. Are you going to normalize it through some standards body?
There's a great presentation on Friday about different types of standards by Chris Wilson. Something doesn't need to be a standard to be open. And anybody who's interested in talking to us about licensing models, we're happy to talk to them about it. Our bias on this is more open, not less open. Even with XPS as a document format, for example, we believe we've taken an industry-leading licensing approach with that and said basically XPS is royalty-free, read, write, render, no confusion, no other clarification required, full stop. And look for future announcements from us in this area going forward. But we want to make the format, especially for WPFE, super easy for others to use and adopt.